Hey, Matrix Live. I'm here with Dominic, who is. Hey!
Hi.
Hey.
Thanks
Dominic's
for having
not seen so much in the community, but he's been working on a Kotlin project, right? You've been working on a Kotlin SDK.
Yeah, it's called matrixkt. It's supposed to be a Kotlin library for all your client-side needs. So like your state management, sync, end-to-end encryption, all the shebang, all
Cool.
that.
So, what is the difference? Because there's already SDK 2, right? Or, sorry, it's called Matrix Android SDK 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was the one they've so that's the SDK used in Element Android, which is previously by X.
Mhm.
So that is written completely in Kotlin, same as my library. The difference being, the first important difference is matrixkt is multi-platform, so you can use it in say, Java applications, so or JVM applications on the desktop, on Android, on Raspberry Pi, anywhere you can put it JVM.
Mhm.
Um, you can also use it in applications that compile to native executables if you want that sort of stuff, or browser applications. Anyway, you can use JS. You can also use this SDK.
JS,
But
really?
yeah,
What it transcompiles or what? How does it work?
yeah, it transpiles to JS. It's experimental, so it's
Huh.
not everything works completely.
Uh-huh.
But you do get basically the standard library is compiled to JS, and so is your code. And then you can call JavaScript code from Kotlin and Kotlin from JavaScript. They interrupt fairly well. Some things don't work, like union types. There's some things that JavaScript has that Kotlin just simply doesn't have.
Right, right, right.
Mostly because the other places Kotlin compiles to, like JVM, doesn't have it. So there's some limitations,
Mm,
but you can, in theory, use it in browser too.
yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
And the Matrix Android SDK only works on Android because that's all Element Android needed. So
Right. Okay. Is that like a deep limitation of the Android SDK? Like, could it be expanded?
it could be. The main reason why it'd be difficult to do it now is because it uses a lot of Java APIs.
Mm,
So since like let me think. The file system APIs, for example, now Java has like java.io file to read and write files from, but we don't have those exact APIs on native or
mm,
JS. Like JavaScript doesn't have that, so you wouldn't be able to use those Java APIs. Like Kotlin was platform isn't magic. You still
right.
have to rewrite the base stuff from scratch.
Yeah.
So the Matrix Android SDK
Yeah.
uses a lot of Java APIs and Android specific APIs. So
Right.
yeah. So in theory, the way they've implemented it,
Hmm.
it has a lot of interfaces and concrete classes. So in theory, you could get the concrete classes, or rather re-implement the
Mm,
interfaces in
yep.
multi-platform. But
But there's
that's
not
a
much motivation to do that, right? Because the main target is Android. Yeah.
yeah,
Fair
yeah.
enough. All right. And then what is this? I'm reading about coroutines. Explain to me what is this?
Coroutines, yes, fun Kotlin feature, which is why everybody loves it.
Yeah.
So if you're familiar with say C Sharp async await or JavaScript, TypeScript, I'm not
Hmm.
familiar. And TypeScript async await, so it's Kotlin's version of that.
Okay.
So in Kotlin, instead of getting async functions, you get suspend functions, which is basically the same thing as async functions. When you call it, it awaits by default. So you have to explicitly opt in into concurrency. It's a
Okay.
whole safety thing. How to do
All
it.
right. Cool.
Uh,
And
yeah,
that's you've got that fully implemented in Matrix KT.
yeah.
Yeah.
From the ground up, matrixkt uses coroutines. The Matrix Android SDK use coroutines internally, but not on the API level. API level is still callbacks,
Hmm.
which for someone who's using Kotlin is kind of like jarring. Like what?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But I use callbacks, just simple suspend functions.
Right. Right. Right.
Like I don't need to tell you about why
No.
suspend callbacks.
Okay.
But the reason for that was they didn't want to enforce a framework on users. But I slowly over like the span of a couple months convinced them
Oh
to
wow.
switch over. Yeah.
So wait a minute. So
Yeah.
wait a minute. So you now have a hand in two Kotlin libraries. One of which.
Yeah, basically, I guess. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, I convinced them to do it. not do it, but to accept it.
Mhm.
So I've been going through the SDK and just converting stuff to suspend functions and making stuff much simpler. Like, yeah.
Okay. All right, super. I mean, to be honest, I hadn't realized that you were also contributing back to the to the original, let's say, to the SDK 2. Are you did you gain a good experience from working on your own SDK, and it convinced you, or were you already kind of sold on Kotlin and you knew that that's what you wanted to do?
So when I started with Kotlin and wait, let me remember. Yes. So when I started with Matrix, as in developing Matrix, there was a particular feature that I wanted in the Android app.
Mm-hmm.
But this is before Riot X. This was I forgot what I think. Oh, Riot Android. Yeah, that's what
Yeah, the old one.
Yeah, in the front menu you had like was a floating action menu at the bottom right,
Yep.
which when you opened it did something weird that wasn't expected. Like it wasn't like it wasn't according to the material spec.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And I and someone else was also pushing me like, oh, you do Android dev, go fix that thing. And I went on, fixed it to like do the nice animation to bring up my button and show you options, and contributed that.
Cool.
And that showed up in Matrix Live, I think, at that time.
Super.
Oh, fun. Then later on, I heard about Riot X, and heard it was written in Kotlin.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to also be like, oh, let me go participate, do that. And I did some refactoring, just doing some, you can do this nicer here, do this nicer there. But once I got to suspend function, I was like, we should change callbacks to suspend functions. And they said, no, we're not looking at that. And at that point, I went on to say, I'll go make my own library.
Right, okay. No, that's fair. I mean, this is the ultimate scratch your own itch. It started out with one feature, and then you ended up needing to get to build your own library. All right, we should rewind a little bit, because you started there when you started out with Matrix. What's your background with Matrix, and how did you get interested in it?
So in my first year of university, I went to a hackathon, Student Hack Manchester, with a team of 4, and there were some challenges. Mm-hmm. One from Matrix, which is the best hack using Matrix. There were 2 others, one to use AWS and one to make a futuristic doorbell. And we were like, 3 prizes, let's go for 3 of them.
Yeah.
We made a futuristic doorbell. So basically this had my phone, an Arduino, an AWS instance, and I think there was a Raspberry Pi for some processing. So basically the idea was someone would come with a card. We just had like colored cards for identification. You scan it on the Arduino. The Arduino sends that to Raspberry Pi. Raspberry Pi sends a request to the AWS instance where you have Synapse running. And then from there, I download the image from there to the phone, and then just say a message saying, someone's at the door, it's this person, do you want to open it? You say yes, they send a message back, door opens, which is just like an LCD with a color moving, which is that, and we won the Matrix prize. Yeah.
Amazing. Did you win did you win all 3 prizes?
Yeah, all 3. Yeah.
All right. Amazing. I don't think I'd heard that story before. That's pretty cool, actually. All right. So you were already studying some technology at Manchester, I guess. What are your tech preferences? I guess Kotlin is pretty bread and butter for you, but what are you really into?
I design, software design and architecture in general. I used to do a lot of game dev beforehand. I didn't actually make games, I made game engines. So I spent a lot of time refactoring, restructuring, this should go there, this should go there. Lots of design work. I spent about 3 years on this project. If I show you what it looks like rendered, you'd be like, in 3 years, this is it? But most of the work was actually underneath in the refactoring, not a lot of like the actual display. I mean, at the end of the day, I render some 3D models, animation, some particle effects. So it looked okay, but I spent most of my time on design.
Is that is a big motivation for you then? Because I know that people are differently motivated in technology, but you seem to want to make tools and you want to make the middleware kind of.
Yeah, that's pretty much my main focus on building tools, stuff for other developers to hack on. go do
Fair,
their own stuff
fair.
on top of it.
I mean,
Yeah.
does the JVM world provide a lot of that outside SDKs? Because on engines, they're often C++.
Oh, game engines. Yeah. There's a library. There's a library called framework/library called LeapGDX, which makes game development a lot more easy. I used it. I think I used it at one point to make some game. I think I made Brick Breaker. I didn't know the game. Basically, have loads of bricks and a paddle at the bottom, and you hit a ball to try and like break the bricks.
Yeah.
That played around with that, but they're not many yet. They're not many on the JVM. Most of them are all in C++ because you want optimal performance from your games.
Right.
But luckily, I didn't care about performance.
Well, no. I mean, especially if it's it's mainly for your interest rather than you're not trying to sell it or anything. All right, cool. So we've got a bunch of things here. I was checking out. You went and did some teaching. Is that right?
Yeah. I did do some teaching back home in Nigeria, where I'm from.
Oh, okay.
So it was a summer camp that was ran in my sixth form, and basically we taught some kids, I think around just before high school age, like how to build robots. So it's kind of like Lego Mindstorms, but it was something else. I don't remember exactly what it was called.
Right.
But we just build robots. They lifted stuff up and ran around. Lots of little things.
Do you think there's a benefit from because it's physical? Do you think there's the children of that age kind of benefit more from seeing it rather than just on the screen, or do they not care?
Definitely, for sure. Because after that, we did some programming in Scratch. I would say 100% they were much more interested in seeing actual hardware around and doing stuff like, oh, it's just doing this. But looking at code is a lot more, oh, I guess it's running.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
a lot more interested in hardware. Yeah.
All right, super. All right, so let's think about your SDK for the final thing then. What's the plan, and what are you using it for today? Are you going to come out with your own client?
Ooh. So the current state of the SDK is it just gives you type safe HTTP endpoints. So I got is this Swagger or OpenAPI? I've forgotten what the keyword is, but there's JSON or YAML defined in the Spec repo with all like the endpoints. So I took that in, parsed it, generated like loads of Kotlin classes to represent all of them. You have that in the SDK, and you also have OLM bindings. So I don't build the bindings myself. I don't ship the actual OLM itself because I don't know the legality. So I just have the interface in, and it's up to you to get OLM yourself. And those are the two things it has right now. In the future, I plan to have a full-fat SDK with a state store, end-to-end encryption store, account data, spaces, all the other things that go with it. Right now, I do have something that's kind of like an SDK in a client I'm working on. So the client is called ChitChat. Naming is hard. So right now in the client, I do have a full state store. I store the entire timeline in SQLite.
Okay.
And it comes with everything from sync and very minimal end-to-end encryption. So there's decryption, but no encryption yet because that's a bit difficult. The reason why I don't have that yet in matrixkt is that there's some spec issues that I'm waiting to get solved, and also some issues I'm waiting for. And once those are sort of done, then I can confidently say, oh, this does something predictable.
Super. All right. What are the missing spec issues? I didn't think that there were encryption-related spec issues out there.
They're not encryption-related. They're like they have to do with sync. The most important one is sync, for example. So when you sync, at least the first time, you get at least a room JSON object with like joined, leave, and invite and peek. But those haven't come yet. But
right.
Yeah, those are there. The issue is if you're in a room, right? You join it. It appears in the join section of sync. Then you leave it. It appears in the leave section. That's fine when you're constantly syncing. Right. The issue comes up when you don't sync very often. Let's say you're on an app sorry, you're on a phone,
Mm-hmm.
and you can't sync all the time because of battery life. So you sync once in a while. Now, if you join, if you join, leave, and join a room, right? Let's say on
Yes.
another device,
Yeah,
obviously,
yeah.
then the spec doesn't quite define exactly what state the server sends to you. Like, do you just get, does the server pretend as if you never left the room,
Right.
or does it tell you, oh, you've left, and say, oh, you've joined? Like, that's not very clearly defined.
Yeah.
So in my state store, I don't actually handle that bit very well. So if I actually leave a room on like Element Web and go open chit chat, I have no idea what's going to happen.
It's amazing, actually. You know, people. The thing is, people look at it and they think, oh yeah, it's just a CRUD API. You've just got to get a list of events. But
Yeah.
between membership and join rules and all these things, actually it gets complicated very fast. And I don't think people on the outside really get that very quickly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite difficult. And the other thing is redaction.
Mm-hmm.
So for all events, at least room events, you get your event ID, unsigned content, and all other sorts of signed fun. And if you get, let's say, m.room.message, all the message content is inside the contents key. But for the redact event, m.room.redaction, the redact key is actually outside of content, which is different from literally every other event type.
Okay.
So in Kotlin, when I'm like mapping out, writing the types for all the events, I'm like, oh, I've done this for all of them, but this one is different.
Okay.
That edge case. So I don't handle redaction just because it's so different from everything else I've built.
Do you know why that is? Why is it different?
I think this was like 2016 when someone finally complained about it.
Okay.
I think it was just left out just by accident. Yeah, there's been some spec changes to move it in, but there's no Synapse implementation, so you can't put it in the room version yet.
Yep.
So I'm waiting for that to happen. I've been pestering someone, but
Okay. All right. The trouble is, all these things are hard because there's an existing ecosystem that has to be backwards supported all the time, and it's Matrix is just at a size when things get heavy for that. All right, we've talked so much about Matrix. Is there anything else you wanted to add or say? You know, you've got this global audience of Matrix fans.
Oh wow, pressure. No, I can't think of anything. If you're interested in Kotlin, feel free to message me. If you want to check out matrixkt or chit chat, if you're interested, feel free to message me on. I can't say my user ID up.
We'll put it in the description.
Yeah.
It's all good. And is there a room? We'll put that in too.
Yeah.
Super. All right, Dominic, thank you so much. Thanks, Matrix Live.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Bye.